The World Board Sailing Association World Cup Circuit is the most spectacular windsurfing competition on Earth. Professionals from many countries compete on windy beaches and in rough surf to find out who's the best pro windsurfer of the world. In the 4 years that it now exists, the WBA has grown into a strong organization, establishing big events that attract a lot of public and publicity, and of course an increasing competition for reigning world champion Robbie Nash, the windsurfing wonder boy from Hawaii. Like Formula One car racing, the World Cup is the ultimate laboratory for windsurfing development. The World Cup consists of 3 different disciplines: course racing, quite similar to the Olympic triangular course; slalom, a high-speed race on a figure-8 course in the surf, often held under extremely rough conditions; and wave performance, a kind of freestyle demonstration in the waves, judged by a jury. Thanks to the WBA, windsurfing has developed into a sport that isn't only fun to do, but also spectacular to watch. Every year, the World Cup events attract more and more spectators. Television has also discovered the attraction of the sport, resulting in many television crews covering the various World Cup events of 1986. The 1986 World Cup season saw 4 perfectly successful events, starting off in spring with the World Cup at Omazaki Beach, Japan, where kamikaze conditions prevailed for almost every day of the event, which meant hard work for the competitors, as well as the organization. Immediately after Japan, the show went on to Torche, France, where the competitors had to watch out for killer waves. In fall, the complete circus moved to Zeilt, a very popular beach resort in West Germany. The finals were held in Zandvoort, the Netherlands, where on the last day, a heavy autumn gale provided the ultimate conditions for a really final. Japan, the first day immediately demands everything from the competitors as gale force winds flogged the beach and swept up big breakers in the surf, thus only making it possible to set out the course with a helicopter. The surfers didn't only have to battle it out among each other, each one of them also had his own struggle with the elements. Robbie Nash took the lead, skillfully avoiding the whitecaps. But fate struck as he fell and broke his universal joint. This is the part that keeps sailboard and rig together. What a tough break for the reigning world champion, and he's angry about it.
Broke my universal, same as last year. I have incredibly bad luck here in Japan, I guess. That's really going to hurt me overall, and so I'm pretty upset about that.
The warning signal for the first course race. All competitors are gathered at the starting line, keeping a close watch on each other. And off they go. Just like in Olympic sailing, the windsurfers first have to tack to the weather mark. They then have to sail a half-wind reach, followed by a downwind slalom course, and finally another half-wind reach back to the finish. This course is sailed twice. Nash has a perfect technique and by now goes as fast as a powerful speedboat. He takes the lead, but fumbles at this mark, allowing Anno Tillier of Holland to come in very close. In course racing, the speed of the board and the trim of the sail are very important, even more than in slalom. Therefore, a course race board is a high-performance machine. Even the smallest detail is very important and can mean the difference between success or failure. But, of course, the surfer himself still remains the most important factor. He's got to be strong, physically, mentally, and tactically. Nash wins the first course race. What does he consider the most crucial in this discipline?
Tactically, just the first upwind is the most important. After the first upwind, it's sort of follow the leader. and whose equipment is the fastest. But the start and the first upwind is really important.
Young Anders Bringdahl from Sweden took first prize in the course race discipline, while Olympic gold medal winner Stefan Vandenberg from Holland ended third after all 7 course race heats were completed. Robbie Nash took second place, but like Bringdahl and Vandenberg showed, Europeans are usually strong in the course race discipline. This breakdancer of the waves is young Bjorn Dunkerbeck from Spain, hyping it up for his wave performance heat against Robbie Nash. Nash starts off with a beautiful heaven kick, immediately answered by Dunkerbeck with his barrel roll. Nash goes on with a duck jibe. Dunkerbeck tries to equal Nash's heaven kick, but he fails. Some people consider Dunkerbeck to be the new Robbie Nash, but for the meantime, Nash is still clearly on top. Nash takes some refreshment before the final heat, but with a 35-knot wind, eating Japanese food can be a hassle. His opponent is fellow Hawaiian Alex Aguirre. Both windsurfers know each other well, for they've met in many wave performance finals. Aguirre has the first jump, giving the photographers just what they want. Nash shreds a huge wave as Aguirre makes a barrel roll. Although the circumstances aren't optimal, Nash gives a perfect wave riding performance as he rips the next wave. Aguirre goes for another barrel roll, but gets stuck halfway and crash lands right between the mean breakers. Nash decisively wins the wave performance as he flies to higher spheres. Yet another gale pounds on the small fisherman's village of Omizaki. How can you see what's going on when you've got so much sand in your eyes? The Omizaki World Cup is almost over, and it's time for the last out of the 4 slalom finals. The 8 finalists stand up to their waist in the water, nervously waiting for the starting signal. There it is. The competitors jump on their boards and they're off. The slalom is a high-performance speed race on a figure-8 course. It has a knockout system, which means that after each heat, the fastest 4 out of 8 competitors go on into the next round. They first sail through the breakers to round the outside mark, just behind the surf. They then race back to round the inside mark, which is situated right between the breakers, very close to the beach. This track is sailed twice in the preliminary rounds and 3 times in the finals. Who's going to round the outside mark first? Robbie Nash, his compatriot Ken Winner, or Raphael Saul from France? They all seem to be on a good position, but Nash is a few meters ahead. The reigning world champion rounds the outside mark in front of Ken Winner and Raphael Saul. Fourth around the mark is Anders Bringdahl, followed by Ono Tellier and Bjorn Dunkerbeck. Robbie Nash is now in full possession of the lead. He badly needs to win this final to make up for his disastrous first slalom when he broke his universal joint. Nash clearly finds his way between the waves and rounds the inside mark ahead of the rest. Behind him, Ken Winner almost falls while jibing around the mark and nearly loses second place to Anders Bringdahl, who made incredible speed as he took over third place from Saul. But Winner recovers and holds off Bringdahl's attack. Nash falls. Does fate strike once more against the world champion? Fortunately, he recovers very quickly. But the man who's now on his heels is Raphael Saul. Who's going to round the next mark first? Saul has taken over the lead and jibes around the mark ahead of Nash. but he makes his bend much too wide, and Nash immediately takes advantage of Saul's inaccuracy, cutting in his jibe really sharp. Ken Winner is third around the mark, followed by Bringdahl, Dunkerbeck, and Tellier. It looks like Saul is recovering as he moves in from the left. Who's going to round the inside mark first? Nash has to avoid a choppy wave. It gets him just a bit off course. He sets in his jibe, but Saul squeezes his board in between Nash and the mark. What a race! Nash now points his board upwind. Bringdahl does the same, and not without success, because as the Swede approaches the outside mark for the last time, he's taken over the lead from Saul and Nash. But history repeats as Bringdahl jibes too wide around the mark, and Nash cuts his turn tight to the buoy in perfect style. It's the last reach to the finish, and there's no clear leader. Nash goes to the right, Bringdahl stays at the left. This way, they don't hinder each other, and both get a clear win. It now just depends on who's got the best board speed. Bringdahl appears to have the lead, but it can't be more than a few meters. Both men give their utmost. One little mistake and you've had it. And there it is. Bringdahl makes a little jump, and that costs speed. Nash benefits as he finally takes the lead and wins this slalom final, just in front of the amazing young Swede. Raphael Saul ends in third place, followed by Ono Tellier, who just barely manages to keep Ken Winner behind him. So in Japan, Robbie Nash decisively took first place. He's in front of his compatriots Alex Aguera and Ken Winner. Fourth place was claimed by Frenchman Raphael Saul. The Canary kid Bjorn Dunkerbeck took fifth place, just in front of the surprising Swede Anders Bringdahl. Seventh was Tom Ludecky from Australia, and eighth, Nevin Sayer from the U.S. The next World Cup event was organized at La Torche, France, on the west point of Brittany at the Atlantic coast. Normally, La Torche is the domain of the surfers because of its fantastic ocean swells. Once a year, this quiet place turns into a circus as the windsurfers take over for 10 days. The hollow surf of La Torche provides a perfect training ground for the windsurfers who want to polish up their wave riding. It's incredible how many spectators find their way to this remote place, a lot of them taking the trouble of driving 600 kilometers down from Paris. But what they see is worth it. Robbie Nash almost feels at home in this Hawaii-like surf and clearly enjoys these training conditions as he pulls off a sophisticated trick like this board 360. The first weekend of the event, Stefan van den Berg dominated the course race discipline, winning 4 out of 7 heats. For the time being, though, the wind stayed below the World Cup minimum of 11 knots, but the surf was magnificent, giving Robbie Nash the chance to, once again, show the public that he's a real master of the waves, avoiding no risk at all. On shore, a great many spectators enjoyed the sun, the fresh air, and nosing about. But the last weekend, an Atlantic gale swept over La Torche. 5-meter-high waves and an offshore wind of 45 knots provided the battleground for the wave performance. Bjorn Dunkerbeck may be a 16-year-old kid, but he doesn't seem to be impressed by these hazardous conditions. The only one really in control of the elements was Robbie Nash, though. He ripped the vicious surf of La Torche just like it was a playground. Nash showed the public many spectacular jumps, but in the final he broke all records. Just fasten your seatbelts and watch this. Although it seems unlikely, Nash survives this crash and even recovers quickly. He clearly wins the wave performance in front of, again, Alex Aguirre and Bjorn Dunkerbeck. Immediately after the wave performance, it's time for the slalom. Nash dominates again. Round after round, he wins his heats with overwhelming power as he sails with apparent ease between the malicious waves. The weather gets worse every hour, and the local authorities want to break up the event. It takes an intervention of the French Minister of Navigation, who is among the spectators, to keep the show going on. The competitors often vanish for seconds behind the more than mast-high killer waves. Nash is totally in control as he rounds the inside mark. And as he goes out again to meet another set of monstrous breakers, the others still have to find their way back to the inside mark. Nash triumphs again as he also wins the slalom, far ahead of the rest. Second place is claimed by Frenchman Raphael Saul, who greatly pleased the French spectators by being the best of the rest. After his third place in the wave performance, young Bjorn Dunkerbeck also takes third in this survival game called slalom. Robbie Nash rules again, but in second place we surprisingly find Stefan van den Berg, thanks to his win in the course race. Bjorn Dunkerbeck is third, followed by Anders Bringdahl, Raphael Saul, and Alex Aguirre. In the ranking list, Robbie Nash naturally stays ahead, but Anders Bringdahl takes over second place from Alex Aguirre, who now has to share third place with Raphael Saul and Ken Winner. Bjorn Dunkerbeck is sixth, followed in seventh place by Stefan van den Berg, who makes a big leap upwards. Nevin Sayer maintains his eighth place. Sylt, West Germany, the next stop of the World Cup series, where again many spectators and television stations showed great interest in high-performance board sailing.
dann in die Welle, hier mit der Welle herein. Fahren will mit Abseil. Sind in Transition gespannt für das Kiel und er soll ein sehr guter Freifahrer sein.
The island Sylt is situated on the German-Danish border, and it's the northernmost World Cup location. Therefore, in autumn, it can already get pretty cold in this very popular German seaside resort. In Sylt, Stefan van den Berg again dominated the course race discipline, winning 3 out of 5 heats, thus keeping Nash in second and Bringdahl in third place. Who could resist a real German Bockwurst in this cold and windy weather? The wave performance is held under typical European conditions. How will the Hawaiians cope with this? Wave performance specialist Pete Cabrina from Hawaii gets beaten by young and angry Bjorn Dunkerbeck. Cabrina probably has more trouble with the local conditions. Or was it something else that went wrong?
I don't know. I just sailed not as good as I should have. Sometimes that happens. You know, you have a 5-minute heat, and in 5 minutes you don't do as much as you probably could do.
Robbie Nash is the only Hawaiian who can really adapt to the European conditions, like onshore winds and choppy waves. In the wave performance final, he meets Bjorn Dunkerbeck, who's never before reached that high in a World Cup wave performance. The young blonde Spaniard is really ripping, radical as ever. This kid has come a long way in a short time. How did he do that?
I'll say a lot of practice, many hours in the water, and a bit of luck too. I had many good sailors before Robbie Nash.
But Nash gave Dunkerbeck no chance as he showed the judges and the public that you can give a spectacular wave performance show, even when the circumstances are not so good. He pulled off incredible heaven kicks. And demonstrated how to ride a wave with onshore wind conditions. For this guy, the sky is the only limit. What's his opinion about the conditions for the wave performance?
Not real good. They were actually better in the afternoon than they were earlier, but it was still really difficult because the wind was straight onshore most of the time. And so you had a hard time doing anything, or at least I did. And there wasn't much space between the waves to get speed and so on. You had to use a really big board, but it worked out pretty good.
And so another World Cup ends, which means that the competitors have to pack their equipment, which isn't a trifle. For each World Cup surfer carries along an incredible amount of luggage. Some 6 different boards, 2 for each discipline, 15 sails, 20 masts and booms, and bags full of accessories. And again, Robbie Nash takes first prize, followed in second by Olympic champion Stefan van den Berg. He was followed by Ono Tellier, Alex Aguirre, Bruce Wiley, and Philip McGain, both of Australia. Of course, Robbie Nash keeps the lead on the ranking list, followed by Alex Aguirre, Anders Bringdahl, Bjorn Dunkerbeck, Stefan van den Berg, Ken Winner, Raphael Saal, and Ono Tellier. The finals of the 1986 World Cup season were held in the Dutch beach resort Zandvoort. Every former Dutch World Cup saw the completion of all 3 disciplines, but this year, the wind played hide and seek for 9 days, allowing just the course race discipline. But the very last day, the wind came to the rescue in full force, 25 to 40 knots, and very rough surf, providing hard work for the guys who had to set out the marks. So for the most part of the event, the wind is asleep, the boys lay idle on the beach, and the starting vessel is anchored on a calm North Sea. On the boulevard of Zandvoort, every team had installed its own pits, filled up with colorful sails, and as the wind didn't show up for days, Robbie Nash killed the time in his own way. Closely watched by female world champion Nathalie Lelièvre from France. Second in the women's ranking list is American Dana Dawes. In 1984, the women entered the World Cup for the first time. Their performance may not be as spectacular as that of the men, but nevertheless they deserve full recognition, for it's at least as tough for them as it is for the guys.
It's very nice.
Dana Dawes.
It's tough sometimes, and with all the equipment involved in the World Cup, sometimes I feel like I need a lot more help than, say, some of the guys do. You know, as far as carrying boards and sails, and the level of sailing's improving a lot, and people will, you know, appreciate us much more, even in the future.
Behind Dana Dawes in third place is Annick Graveline from Canada.
So I think it's the same for males and females. I think disadvantage is we get a lot more criticism from the part of the organization and the male racers. You know, sometimes the males go first and the females go last. So, you know, they put priority with the men a lot of times, which is a bit frustrating for us.
But Annick Graveline is a real professional and authoritatively rules in the course race discipline, in which she's often better than many of the participating men. The first day, the wind picks up to some 14 knots in the afternoon, just above the wind minimum of 11 knots. So the race committee decides to start a course race. For the course race, all competitors start simultaneously on the water. Stefan van den Berg is ahead at the weather mark in this first heat. Robbie Nash is far behind, but probably not for long, because he's really fanatical, and in the past has often amazed everybody with some fantastic pursuit races. Stefan van den Berg still has the lead, jibing around the marks in perfect style. He's followed in second place by his teammate, the American Ken Winner. Nash is really going at it all the way as he passes one after the other, gradually getting closer to van den Berg and Winner. The race committee constantly monitors the wind strength on the course area because of the 11 knots wind minimum. Van den Berg doesn't make any mistakes, and neither does Ken Winner, both of them keeping far ahead. Nash rounds the marks in an excellent style, but he somehow misses enough speed and no longer gains on the leader. Stefan van den Berg already won the course race events of La Torche and Zilt. That's no coincidence, for the course race is the World Cup discipline most similar to the Olympic triangle course. No wonder that the Olympic gold medal winner does well here.
I think my race was just fine. It couldn't be better, winning a first race of the new event on the first day.
Ken Winner is second.
I started, a couple hundred yards behind him and couldn't catch up. It was fun trying, though.
Robbie Nash ends fourth.
I started out much worse in the race than I finished. But, I'd like to do better than fourth if possible, but...
In the ladies' event, Annick Graveline seemed almost invincible as she took the lead directly from the start, to finish many minutes before number 2, teammate Brick Dunkerbeck from Spain. Martine van Solingen from Holland sailed to a neat third place on her home water. And after a day on the water, the competitors still have to work hard to get all their equipment organized again. The next 2 days, the wind was totally absent, but the thousands of spectators were entertained by the sponsors in an alternative way. Some competitors showed the public that they're not only talented in windsurfing, and in almost every pit there was something to see. On the boulevard, you could see the windsurfing stars from close by, and if you were lucky, you could get an autograph from Robbie Nash, who sometimes had to sign the strangest objects. So nobody went home disappointed, because wind or no wind, a World Cup event always means fun. The fourth day, the wind picked up in the late afternoon, allowing the start of another course race at 4:30. In the twilight, Onno Tillier from Holland immediately takes the lead. He reaches the weather mark far ahead of the rest. The only person who stays with him is Anders Bringdahl. He's some 20 meters behind to the mark, but he falls. This could be a costly mistake. Vandenberg as well as Nash made a mistake at the beginning of the race and are now far behind. Bringdahl has recovered very fast and even passes the Dutchman Onno Tillier to win this second course race. Stefan Vandenberg ends 10th and Robbie Nash 8th, which is disappointing for both of them.
Robbie and I and a lot of other people, they really did oversail the mark. I was looking for the mark because I was number one at that moment on that place. And I was looking for the mark, I couldn't find him at all, so...
Aniek Greveline is again by far the fastest lady. It's already dark when the competitors clear away their equipment. The next day, the wind is on time, so 3 course races are scheduled. In the first one, Stefan Vandenberg imposes his will on the whole field from start to finish, sailing with tactical intelligence and making no more mistakes at the marks.
Yeah, just great. The start was good, directly to the mark, no mistakes, all the time full speed. Reaching, I'm really fast. I really was going away on the reaches against the other guys.
Robbie Nash is second. He saw no chance to catch up with Vandenberg.
Once he got to the weather mark and started reaching, he was so far ahead there was no way to catch him. I was just trying to stay in front of the guys behind me.
Fortunately, the wind stays, so all course races scheduled are sailed. In total, 5 course races are completed in Zandvoort. Stefan Vandenberg wins 2 of them, but in the other 3, he sails disappointingly. Therefore, he ends up in 4th place. But that's still enough to gain the 1986 world title in the individual course race discipline. And that was Vandenberg's main goal for the 1986 World Cup season. American Nevin Sayer also wins 2 course races in Zandvoort and takes 3rd place in this discipline during the finals here in Zandvoort. The young and coming man from Sweden, Anders Bringdahl, sails to victory just once, but he's so consistent in the other races that he takes 2nd place, just behind Robbie Nash. Although Nash doesn't win one single heat, his results are so consistently good that he takes the first prize in the course race discipline. Aniek Greveline has a clear victory as she wins 4 out of 5 heats. The wind disappears again, but the surfers, anxious not to be deprived of competition, organize a frisbee contest. And of course, some windsurfers are talented skateboarders too. A new trend for calm days is freeboarding, and some windsurfers are very good already, although a gale is predicted for the second last day of the event, but weather forecasts can be wrong. So thousands of spectators, and of course all competitors and officials, wait in vain. The wind has got to come, today or tomorrow. Meanwhile, Robbie Nash prepares his slalom board for the last time, working on every detail. The World Cup final is a big event, and in Zandvoort it now replaces the Formula One car races. No wonder it attracts many journalists from all over the world.
Yeah, there are a lot of spectators.
A great many spectators, 80 competitors, and 100 officials wait for the forecasted gale to come and save the day. But alas, the flags flutter quietly. It's just not happening. The organization is running out of buy-events, and it looks like the World Cup finals are going to flop. But international race officer Dutchman Wim Thijs is always an optimist.
We are never sure when it is going to blow and when not. So we are in touch with all kind of weather stations, and we look ourselves to the sky and our wind meters and devices, and then we have to make up our minds when to go and when not to go. But you know, it's all in the game. We're never sure when the wind is coming, and that's why we have quite a flexible schedule. We only need about 2.5 days of good winds to do the complete program.
But although the radio kept warning all ships that a gale was on the brink, Zandvoort didn't get more than 5 knots of it. Last day, last chance. Wim Thijs phones to the various weather stations.
Ik ben wedstrijdleider van de O'Neill Pro World Cup in Zandvoort.
And it looks great today. Finally, the wind has come in full force. The race committee decides to begin races at 9 o'clock, an hour earlier than normal, because they've scheduled the 2 remaining disciplines on this very last day.
We're going to do both wave performance and slalom. So we are going to be busy, and we decided to start off with wave performance. The wind will increase during the day, and it will go to be southwest more, so more side shore than it is now. We hope to start wave performance shortly after 9 o'clock, so it looks great today, and let's go for it. Don't waste any time. We will have 2 disciplines in this morning. Good luck to all of you, and see you on the beach.
Bjorn Dunkerbeck is the first on the beach this morning. He's determined to beat Nash today. He goes on the water to try out his board and sail. What Dunkerbeck demonstrates in training promises a lot. This heaven kick looks almost inhuman. In the wave performance, the surfers compete head-to-head in a knockout system. Every heat takes 5 minutes. Judges decide which competitor goes on into the next round. Not only the high jumps are taken into account, but also the way the surfers use the waves for wave riding and do various freestyle tricks. In the quarterfinals, Dutchman Onno Tellier meets Bjorn Dunkerbeck. The Canary Kid shows some very subtle tricks, like this duck tack, changing tack by ducking underneath the sail. Or the other way around with a so-called duck jibe. But although the wave performance isn't Onno Tellier's best discipline, he always excels himself during regattas, and then often jumps incredibly high. This jump is estimated at some 6 meters above the wave's crest. As he hits the water again, it looks like his board explodes. Thanks to his spectacular performance, Tellier surprisingly beats Dunkerbeck. The thousands of spectators crowd around the starting area, and the photographers get ready for what might be the heat of the day. Pete Cabrina is on the water to meet Robbie Nash in this semi-final. Nash starts with a high jump. He searches the surf for a big wave because he wants his next jump to be even more spectacular. What's it going to be? A barrel roll, and he sails away from it. Magnificent! Cabrina is on a small wave and tries a 360 turn, but he's in trouble. He can't complete the turn and falls. He quickly recovers, but he's got to do something about it. He's got to make a barrel roll too. Meanwhile, Nash is shredding a wave on his way back to the beach and makes a perfect lollipop, jumping in the same direction the wave is going. Cabrina makes speed as he looks out for a perfect wave. His answer to Nash is a beautiful heaven kick. And another one. Cabrina is getting on form. He's probably the only surfer in the world who can keep Nash from winning a wave performance event, and he has often done so. Even Nash sometimes makes a mistake. Here, he completely misses an aerial jibe and falls, but he recovers through another lollipop. And watch this. He steps off his board and drags his body through the water. It's a so-called body drag. He seems to be having some trouble with his harness, and while adjusting it, he almost loses his balance. Cabrina looks for a nice wave, but he can't find one. Nash tries a board 180, a very difficult kind of tack. He completes it very smoothly, but now he's having trouble with his harness again. He tries to hook in several times, but it doesn't work. He has to adjust the harness, and that cost a lot of strength. Meanwhile, Cabrina still has got to get even with Nash. There it is, Cabrina's barrel roll, but he falls. Nash now knows he's on the winning stroke and deals the death blow through this perfect sail away from it barrel roll. Cabrina tries again, but without success. Nash goes on with a high jump, followed by a sharp top turn on the crest of a wave. A beautiful sequence of maneuvers, surely very impressive to the jury. What will they decide?
Robbie, you won.
What?
Congratulations.
Did I get it?
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Did you expect it?
I didn't know. I knew we were both sailing pretty bad. I think we both fell a lot, huh? Tired and cold. Your fingers can't hold on to the boom. All right, that's great.
In the final, Nash encounters Alex Aguirre. What does Aguirre think of his chances?
I don't know. It depends on how good I do. I don't know. The chances aren't real good if Robbie's doing great because this is more his direction than my direction. I like it better if it comes from the right. But hopefully everything goes my way. We'll find out here in a second.
And off they go. Aguirre has the first jump, but Nash does it upside down, thus probably scoring better on the jury sheets. They seem to stick together in order to watch each other's moves. Nash pulls off an incredible heaven kick. Aguirre goes sky high. Nash attacks a medium-sized wave and tries to finish it off, ripping it to pieces. For Aguirre, the sky is still the limit, but his wave riding isn't good. He falls and gets eaten by a hungry North Sea breaker. Nash sees it and thinks it's time for the final stroke, so he pulls off a dazzling barrel roll. He seems to fall, but recovers quickly. Let's see this again in slow motion. This is definitely the highest barrel roll of the day. Aguirre makes a duck jibe on the crest of a wave. Nash answers with a powerful top turn. Note the enormous splash he causes. They constantly watch each other to see how the opposition is doing. Nash makes an aerial jibe, so does Aguirre, but it isn't very smooth, and in the end, he has to step off. Nash demonstrates another body drag, actually planing on his belly. Both surfers give their best. Now it's up to the jury.
Though it was very close on each of the 5 score sheets, the result by unanimous decision is that the winner of the wave riding event is Robbie Nash.
You only have to sail the slalom, and then you can get 2 nights here in Zand for the World Cup for the 4th time.
Well, it depends how I do in the slalom, you know.
But before the slalom, there's still the ladies' wave performance final, which is won by Nathalie Lelièvre. The French girl beats the very young and coming talent Nathalie Ziebel from Germany. Both female finalists show that there's strong improvement in women's board sailing, although it still often means falling and getting up again. The crowds on the boulevard and on the beach of Zandvoort patiently wait while race committee and competitors prepare for the slalom. And as the tide comes in, more and more people have to stand on less and less beach.
And move up your boards and sails because the sea's coming up real fast.
By now, more than 100,000 spectators are crowded on the beach, defying gale force winds and some heavy showers. The wind gets stronger, the waves higher, and the first casualties can be noted as some of the surfers are swallowed by the washing machine. Due to these circumstances, some favorites are already eliminated in the preliminary rounds, like Cabrina, who's an expert in sailing high waves, at least capable of getting into the finals. How is this possible for a man who normally plays with mast-high waves in the Pacific Ocean?
Well, I had to go downwind to avoid a wave. There was a really long wave, and if I went over it, 2 guys would have passed me immediately. So I went down below to keep my speed up, and then I couldn't lay the mark. So I had to tack a couple times to get to the mark, and by then it was too late.
Another casualty is Alex Aguirre, who also gets into trouble due to the strong current and the mean breakers that follow upon each other very fast. But Robbie Nash takes off in his own way like a rocket. Nobody else can get up in a way as fast as Nash. He easily jumps over the white water without losing speed at all. In the slalom, you have to avoid jumping because you can fall, and it often costs speed. But sometimes you just don't have any choice. A big wave is building up ahead of him. If it breaks too early, Nash could get washed, just like Alex Aguirre. But Nash simply jumps the wave like it's still the wave performance. Where's the rest? Far behind. Watch how Nash already jibes before he rounds the mark, thus wasting no height at all. This is very important because on the reach to the inside mark, the surfers have to beat up against a strong current. By rounding the outside mark in this manner, Nash brilliantly anticipates this problem that has already eliminated Cabrina, Aguirre, and many others. The waves are almost mast-high by now, but Nash doesn't seem to be impressed as he smoothly finds his way to the inside mark. Nash loses no speed at all when he jibes around the inside mark, skillfully avoiding a fall in the white water. But Bjorn Dunkerbeck meets his fate as he makes a mistake while jibing the inside mark. He falls and gets swallowed by the merciless North Sea. And he's very depressed. Anders Bringdahl appears to have no trouble at all and clearly wins his heat. When he rounds the mark, watch how he's completely in control of the elements. But the elements strike back as a heavy thunderstorm sweeps over the beach, picking up and blowing away numerous sails.
From the shore, it's too dangerous to go out. It's lightning.
The ladies have just started their slalom, but it has to be canceled due to the extreme bad weather.
Don't go, Oliver. Come ashore. Also the girls
The thunderstorm causes a lot of damage on the beach and the boulevard. In a small panic, the countless spectators run for shelter against the heavy rain and hail. Within no time, the beach is almost abandoned. Time is running short as it already grows dusk, and Wim Thijs checks out the course. The service to sailing team brings out a new mark because the wind is shifting, so it might be needed to set out a new course. Everybody is working under strain to get the job done in time.
Wim Thijs, what's happening?
Well, we are. The wind picked up again after the thunderstorm. Now we have, unfortunately, to reset the course to bring out a new mark because the wind changed direction considerably. So nobody can make this course any longer. So we are really hurrying, and it's just a matter of 5 minutes more or less. If we are 5 minutes too late, it's over. We cannot do the final. So I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. Bye.
The wind is 45 knots by now, and the surf has become really dangerous. Nevertheless, the service to sailing team goes out to anchor the new mark, a very difficult and daring expedition. They managed to find the right spot, so finally Wim Thijs can hurry back to the starting area to continue the slalom with the semifinals. The gale force winds and the killer waves turn this slalom from a regatta into pure survival. It's hard to see who's ahead because the surfers sometimes vanish for seconds behind the enormous waves. The first on his way back to the inside mark is Anders Bringdahl. When you watch him jibe, it almost looks easy, but you can be sure that under these conditions, it isn't. And although this is the slalom, some competitors now jump much higher than during the wave performance. Anders Bringdahl clearly wins this semi-final. Meanwhile, Robbie Nash gets prepared for his semi-final heat. It's growing dusk fast, so everybody is running out of time. Will they make it before dark? The tension mounts as the surfers prepare for the start. And they're off, but Nash almost falls in the middle of the field. He quickly recovers, but now is second to last. Stefan van den Berg chooses his own course more downwind than the rest. He's followed by Dutchman Olaf van Tal with the orange sail, who suddenly goes a lot faster. Van den Berg falls. This means the end of the slalom for him. Olaf van Tal takes the lead, an outstanding performance from Holland's first professional board sailor who finally found his way into a World Cup team during the 1986 season. Van Tal wins this semi-final in front of Robbie Nash. While at the background, the street lights already shine on the boulevard of Zandvoort. Robbie Nash gets ready for the final. The WBA always reserves a few places for the local heroes, but they rarely get as far as young Eric Groenewald, who's standing next to Nash. It's already so dark that the photographers have to use flash bulbs to get a clear picture. Anders Bringdahl, too, is completely concentrated for the start. They're off. Nash has another one of his awesome rocket starts, with Groenewald trailing in second place. Lightning on the horizon announces another thunderstorm. What a race! Who's who? It's hard to see in the twilight. Maui Meyer from Hawaii is in trouble. He's grabbed by a monster wave and washed on the shore. Maui Meyer thinks it's been more than enough and gives up. Meanwhile, Nash already rounds the inside mark, but he falls. He quickly recovers and goes out to the next buoy. At the inside mark, it's complete chaos by now. Some finalists have to swim after their boards, but not Anders Bringdahl, who takes second place. Nash on his way to the finish, but he's in trouble. He can't reach the mark of the finishing line because of the strong current. He quickly jibes and sails back out to sea, pointing his board as high against the wind as possible. It's an enormous effort and shows his full determination. But there, out of nowhere, Anders Bringdahl. Is he going to beat Nash? He squeezes his board around the finish mark and falls. But that doesn't matter anymore. Bringdahl wins the slalom. Nash ends up second.
Congratulations, how was your race?
Thank you. My race was really great because I missed the start completely with a nosedive that I missed, so I'm really happy.
Anders Bringdahl is mad with joy because of his victory over Nash.
Now in conditions like this, you never know what's going to happen. It's a really bad course. I was lucky even to make it in the end. So I'm stoked.
However he feels, Nash still celebrates his overall World Cup victory with the usual champagne. Although on the brink, the delayed gale spectacularly saved the day and this year's World Cup finals.
Japan, Silt, Lacoste en natuurlijk Zandvoort.
Robbie Nash, winner of the Dutch World Cup. Second in Zandvoort is Anders Bringdahl and Nevin Sayer third. Naturally, this means that after 4 very successful World Cup events in Japan, France, West Germany, and the Netherlands, Robbie Nash wins the World Cup for the 4th time in a row. Stefan van den Berg is second, followed by Anders Bringdahl in third place, a very strong debut for the young Swede. Ken Winner ends his last World Cup season on a satisfying 4th place. Raphael Saul and Nevin Sayer share 5th, and Bjorn Duckerbeck and Otto Tellier 7th place. Nathalie Lelievre wins in Holland. Julie de Woord from the U.S. is second, and Aniek Graveline from Canada third. Nathalie Lelievre wins her 3rd World Cup championship. Hawaiian Dana Dawes has a strong debut with her 2nd place. Aniek Graveline ends 3rd. She's followed by Great Britain's Claire Seeger and Holland's Martien van Soligen. World Board Sailing Association World Cup Circuit is the most spectacular windsurfing competition on Earth. Professionals from many countries compete on windy beaches and in rough surf to find out who's the best pro windsurfer of the world. In the 4 years that it now exists, the WBA has grown into a strong organization, establishing big events that attract a lot of public and publicity, and of course an increasing competition for reigning world champion Robbie Nash, the windsurfing wonder boy from Hawaii. Like Formula One car racing, the World Cup is the ultimate laboratory for windsurfing development. The World Cup consists of 3 different disciplines: course racing, quite similar to the Olympic triangular course; slalom, a high-speed race on a figure-8 course in the surf, often held under extremely rough conditions; and wave performance, a kind of freestyle demonstration in the waves, judged by a jury. Thanks to the WBA, windsurfing has developed into a sport that isn't only fun to do, but also spectacular to watch. Every year, the World Cup events attract more and more spectators. Television has also discovered the attraction of the sport, resulting in many television crews covering the various World Cup events of 1986. The 1986 World Cup season saw 4 perfectly successful events, starting off in spring with the World Cup at Omazaki Beach, Japan, where kamikaze conditions prevailed for almost every day of the event, which meant hard work for the competitors as well as the organization. Immediately after Japan, the show went on to Torche, France, where the competitors had to watch out for killer waves. In fall, the complete circus moved to Zeilt, a very popular beach resort in West Germany. The finals were held in Zandvoort, the Netherlands, where on the last day, a heavy autumn gale provided the ultimate conditions for a really final. Japan, the first day immediately demands everything from the competitors as gale force winds flogged the beach and swept up big breakers in the surf, thus only making it possible to set out the course with a helicopter. The surfers didn't only have to battle it out among each other, each one of them also had his own struggle with the elements. Nash wins the first course race. What does he consider the most crucial in this discipline?
Tactically, just the first upwind is the most important. After the first upwind, it's sort of follow the leader and whose equipment is the fastest. But the start and the first upwind is really important.
Young Anders Bringdahl from Sweden took first prize in the course race discipline, while Olympic gold medal winner Stefan Vandenberg from Holland ended 3rd after all 7 course race heats were completed. Robbie Nash took 2nd place, but like Bringdahl and Vandenberg showed, Europeans are usually strong in the course race discipline. This breakdancer of the waves is young Bjorn Dunkerbeck from Spain, hyping it up for his wave performance heat against Robbie Nash. Nash starts off with a beautiful heaven kick, immediately answered by Dunkerbeck with his barrel roll. Nash goes on with a duck jibe. Dunkerbeck tries to equal Nash's heaven kick, but he fails. Some people consider Dunkerbeck to be the new Robbie Nash, but for the meantime, Nash is still clearly on top. Nash takes some refreshment before the final heat, but with a 35-knot wind, eating Japanese food can be a hassle. His opponent is fellow Hawaiian Alex Aguirre. Both windsurfers know each other well, for they've met in many wave performance finals. Aguirre has the first jump, giving the photographers just what they want. Nash shreds a huge wave as Aguirre makes a barrel roll. Although the circumstances aren't optimal, Nash gives a perfect wave riding performance as he rips the next wave. Aguirre goes for another barrel roll, but gets stuck halfway and crash lands right between the mean breakers. Nash decisively wins the wave performance as he flies to higher spheres. Yet another gale pounds on the small fisherman's village of Omizaki. How can you see what's going on when you've got so much sand in your eyes? The Omizaki World Cup is almost over, and it's time for the last out of the 4 slalom finals. The 8 finalists stand up to their waist in the water, nervously waiting for the starting signal. There it is. The competitors jump on their boards and they're off. The slalom is a high-performance speed race on a figure-8 course. It has a knockout system, which means that after each heat, the fastest 4 out of 8 competitors go on into the next round. They first sail through the breakers to round the outside mark, just behind the surf. They then race back to round the inside mark, which is situated right between the breakers, very close to the beach. This track is sailed twice in the preliminary rounds and 3 times in the finals. Who's going to round the outside mark first? Robbie Nash, his compatriot Ken Winner, or Raphael Saul from France? They all seem to be on a good position, but Nash is a few meters ahead. Robbie Nash took the lead, skillfully avoiding the whitecaps. But fate struck as he fell and broke his universal joint. This is the part that keeps sailboard and rig together. What a tough break for the reigning world champion, and he's angry about it.
Broke my universal, same as last year. I have incredibly bad luck here in Japan, I guess. That's really going to hurt me overall, and so I'm pretty upset about that.
The warning signal for the first course race. All competitors are gathered at the starting line, keeping a close watch on each other. And off they go. Just like in Olympic sailing, the windsurfers first have to tack to the weather mark. They then have to sail a half-wind reach, followed by a downwind slalom course, and finally another half-wind reach back to the finish. This course is sailed twice. Nash has a perfect technique and by now goes as fast as a powerful speedboat. He takes the lead, but fumbles at this mark, allowing Anno Tillier of Holland to come in very close. In course racing, the speed of the board and the trim of the sail are very important, even more than in slalom. Therefore, a course race board is a high-performance machine. Even the smallest detail is very important and can mean the difference between success or failure. But, of course, the surfer himself still remains the most important factor. He's got to be strong, physically, mentally, and tactically.